Don't go into the woods. Don't go by yourself, and absolutely don't go at night. If you do, you may not come out alive. But why? What could be lurking within the woods is so dangerous and scary? Depending on which version of the story you've heard, it might be a serial killer, a ghostly specter. Even the animals in these tales are extra ferocious. But this time, the one waiting for us beyond the trees, hidden inside an extravagant mansion, is a 7-year-old girl. We're tempted to go into the house, the smell of roses and fresh pastries in the air, urging us forward. So entranced by the mystery of it all, we might just miss a small blood stain on the floor and... oops. First released on October 3rd, 2012 by the developer Fummy, The Witch's House is known for its devastating ending. This comes as no surprise to longtime fans of the game, but unless you achieved all the endings and read the manga and novel, you might not know all the details that led to the events of the game. The game itself isn't long, but if you continue to fall for the traps laid out, there's plenty of pixelated gore, and the story itself is filled with sorrow, rage, and betrayal. While the original version was first created on RPG Maker VX, most of my footage and content will come from my playthrough of the updated version, The Witch's House MV, which has updated graphics, new puzzles, additional scenes, and more. I'll first summarize the events of the game, then provide more details and summary on the manga and novel together since they're very similar, as well as cover my own thoughts and theories about this game. I've timestamped the videos so you can check out whichever topic interests you the most. This is your spoiler and trigger warning, so if you're ready, sit back, relax, get cozy, and let the nightmare begin. Viola, age 13, wakes in a bed of flowers, somewhere within the woods. In her pocket is a note from her father. I don't mind if you go out to play, but don't go too deep into the forest. Hope to see you home soon. Dad. Guess she didn't quite listen to good old Dad now, did she? And now leaving the woods is impossible, as a giant wall of roses blocks her way. But maybe this little guy here will assist us. He seems harmless enough. We, the player, think nothing of a talking cat, and it seems Viola doesn't either. In-game, he mainly serves as the save point, so we'll see him throughout the mansion, but we'll learn later that his role is much more central to the story. With nowhere left to go, Viola enters the mansion and faces one of the many ways to die in this game. I'd like to tell you that I played the game perfectly and solved all the puzzles without dying once, but I would be a liar. And at first I thought all the death scenes were just quirky ways to keep the player on their toes, to punish us even for inspecting every little thing as one tends to do in RPG games, but these gruesome, inventive deaths actually hold some significance to the game's lore. After Viola definitely avoids the walls crushing her to bits, we see the first puzzle she must solve. She must first find a teddy bear, which can be located alongside the first page of the witch's diary. The first entry says, I was sick, so no one played with me. My father and mother didn't love me. Acquiring the bear, Viola's task is to cut its limbs off with a pair of scissors to reduce its size, then place the bear in a basket alongside another. Now, the act of cutting off a toy bear's limbs is a bit creepy. Children often destroy their toys as a way of learning how things work and even as a way of expressing rage, discontent, or despair. But then we see that the scissors are bloody, the torso of the bear covered in blood where its limbs once were. Viola would have felt the resistance of cutting through flesh and blood, yet she continues to do so without any semblance of outrage or disgust. She doesn't seem to react at all. The next puzzle involves helping an invisible chef. If Viola offers to lend a metaphorical hand, he'll literally take hers. But offering the bear limbs gives Viola a silver key that she uses to test the bowl of soup at the dining room table. Doing this will determine if it contains poison, because silver will change colors when exposed to certain types of poisons like arsenic. Next, on the second floor, she must replace a golden butterfly caught in a spider's web by replacing it with a model of a blue one. She also meets a ghostly figure in the library who hangs himself with a bit of rope she provides for tying books together. Within the library are a few books that explain more about the witch's house. We learn that keys don't open the doors here. Something else is always the true key, and the form of the house changes based upon the witch's magic. Then there's a newspaper clipping that notes a house once burned down and a husband and wife were found in the aftermath with multiple stab wounds. Their daughter Ellen, age 7, has been missing since the fire. After dodging knives shooting out of the walls on the 3rd floor, Viola comes across a sack filled with dead cats, and at first I thought this hallway here was filled with pillows, but now I'm wondering if there are even more feline corpses within each one. She also meets an adorable frog that quickly becomes her companion and helps her complete various challenges on the 3rd floor, like reaching a lever, helping to make a mirror image of another room, and being used as a sacrifice. Again, this is another task that seems a bit off for the main protagonist, as Viola forcefully shoves the frog through a hole in the door, only for him to be eaten by a large snake. It starts to make you think that maybe Viola isn't the kind of innocent girl we assumed her to be, and maybe she's trapped in this house for a particular reason. Just before the snake's door, we find another diary entry. This one says, "My father and mother didn't love me, so I X'd them. I've been in this house ever since." And based off of the newspaper clipping and first page of the diary, we can assume that Ellen, age 7, is the witch who killed her parents and now resides within the mansion. But how did she come to live here, and how did she become a witch? Making our way to the 4th floor, it's Viola's job to make noise in 4 of the rooms. The 4th floor also contains another diary entry. "I X all the friends who came to my house after that. They were all eaten by the house, but it wasn't enough." The puzzles throughout the game continue to hint at the fact that the witch is a twisted child, incorporating toys like bloody teddy bears, a toy soldier with a working gun, dolls that move, a jack-in-the-box filled with blood, and more. Other rooms hint at the passing of time, with a grandfather clock being the literal key to solving one of the puzzles, and another clock crushing Viola to death as she interacts with it. And then another diary entry on the 4th floor speaks further of Ellen's sickness. "I hate my illness. It kept me from going outside. It kept people from loving me." Throughout the game, we see Ellen appear almost as a ghost, wandering the house and attempting to scare Viola. She doesn't appear unhealthy in this form, but looks can be quite deceiving. To progress further, Viola returns to the kitchen and retrieves a ring for a statue. She must enter a back room that is filled with skeletons, all of which are missing their hands, a reference to the cook from before, but also a chilling look at the many victims of the house. As Viola enters a hallway on the 5th floor, an entity leaps through a stained glass window and tries to attack her, but is stopped by Ellen. But if Ellen trapped Viola here and the house is trying to kill her, then why did she save her just now? Within a room that looks like a garden, we find another diary entry. "Then a girl came over to play, a cute girl with golden braids." So it seems that Ellen does know of Viola, and she wasn't just a random person to enter the witch's house. We also find 2 ghosts locked away in a prison-like hallway. The man is moaning within his cell, asking Viola for a certain medicine. If she doesn't have any, he'll spit at her, and once again her task requires her to kill something. This time a white flower that can speak and shriek once killed. In the extra difficulty version of the game, the flowers have human forms, so her actions become even more concerning. Killing the flower allows her to obtain a special pollen from the yellow flowers in the next room. Viola delivers the drug to the man, only for him to become angered over having nothing to smoke the medicine with. She then completes a series of other tasks to retrieve his hidden pipe and deliver it. Once she does, the man disappears from his cell, a sweet scent wafting throughout the bars. Then she hears someone else leaving the cell beside him. She enters, finding a stack of dusty books. Their titles are mostly covered, but they seem to say, "The Art of Making Pastries," "Two Parents with a Sick Child," and blank, followed by the word dependence. From these books, we realize that the souls in the cells were those of Ellen's mother and father, whom she murdered, stabbing them to death, believing they didn't love her. In the mother's cell is a pair of red shoes that Viola takes, washing the blood off of them. This will allow her to walk safely across a room filled with poison water to another room that houses medical supplies. One particular cabinet holds a cute little bottle that Viola takes for later use. There's also another diary entry. "I wouldn't X her, because she would save me from my sickness, so I made her my friend." The house is changing now that Viola has the bottle, the garden no longer lively but tinged in red. She enters a hallway following a trail of blood. It leads to a door with a single note that says, "Come to my room." Viola enters the door and walks along another hallway, finding the body of the talking cat, but also the final door. This door leads to a darkened room, a bed covered in blood, a cup of something overturned on the floor. There's also one final diary page. "I'm going to die from my sickness, so I'm going to take her body. I'm going to live on in her body. It's okay, right, because we're friends? She'll give me her body, because we're friends. That's why you came to play with me today, right, Viola?" A nearby mirror shatters, and the purple girl is crawling towards her. Her eyes and legs are missing, and she's trying to say something. Then she chases Viola, who just barely manages to escape the house. The tiny bottle in hand, we learn from the inventory that it smells sweet and has the power to wilt roses. Viola heads toward the rose wall and finds the other half of the letter written by her father. Now completed, it reads, "Dear Viola, I'm sorry for yelling at you yesterday. There's an old legend that says a witch lives in the forest and kidnaps children who get lost there. Your friend's house is very near the forest, so I was worried about you. Your friend's name was Ellen, right? Well, I don't mind if you go out to play, but don't go too deep into the forest. Hope to see you home soon. Dad." Viola had befriended Ellen, who she thought was a sick, dying 7-year-old girl. She had come to the house multiple times to play, and now she was leaving, never to return. She pours the bottle onto the roses, causing them to wilt away, and just as she's about to truly exit the forest, she sees her father, carrying a shotgun. He's so relieved she's okay. She hadn't returned home, so he started searching for her throughout the entire forest. They turn to leave together just as Ellen appears, blood trailing behind her as she crawls slowly toward them. She's still attempting to speak, the words incoherent. Determined to protect his daughter, the man stands between Ellen and Viola, firing 2 shots directly into the witch's head. She fades into a pile of ash, and the nightmare now over, father and daughter return home to their village, safe and sound, but not before Viola takes one last look back toward the mansion. There's only one little problem with this ending. It's not the whole story, unfortunately, and the true ending completely shocked players when this game was first released. While being chased by Ellen, Viola must run to the room that held the teddy bear and the first diary entry. There's a cabinet there that holds the knife Ellen murdered her parents with. Taking it doesn't end the chase, but it does reveal the truth. This time, Viola's father hasn't made it to the clearing yet, so she and Ellen are alone. And for the first time in the game, Viola speaks, and she has a lot to say. "Just give it up already. How long are you going to chase me? You know you're almost dead." Give it back. No way. I don't feel any pain in this body. Besides, you're the one who gave it to me. Why should I have to give it back? Right, Viola? You felt so sorry for me. I couldn't even move from my bed. That's why I used my magic to trade bodies with you. Just for a day? Maybe I did promise that. I was surprised you managed to trap me in there, but to no avail. After all, it's my house. Why would it ever kill me? The house guided me the entire way to ensure that I would escape. Still not dead. I have to applaud your tenacity. Maybe you're too worried about your father to die. Oh, I know all about you and your father, Viola. A close family of 2. Those memories stayed in your body. He's a kind man, a hunter, isn't he? And he even sent you that letter. What a good father. So then, I suppose you're worried about what'll happen when you're gone. It'll be just fine. I'll make sure his daughter, Viola, gives him her share of love. And I'll take her share of love too. So just... Suddenly, Viola, or Ellen, I guess I should say, is stopped by Viola's father. He doesn't know what we know now, that the girl with the golden braids before him isn't his daughter. that the bloodied, mutilated girl crawling toward him is Viola and not the witch at all. And she's trying to call out to him. "Father, help me," she tries to say, before he, in all his fear and desire to protect his little girl, fails. He shoots Viola, calling her a monster, and as he leaves with Ellen none the wiser, Ellen stops long enough to laugh at Viola's fate. Her body still on the ground, the black cat appears. Viola's body fades, then so does the cat, and we're left with nothing but a streak of blood across the forest floor as a reminder of Viola's presence. Fummy was first inspired to create The Witch's House when they played Eve by Kuri. They stated it was scary when the main character suddenly spoke, so to have our main character's first words be so chilling and reveal so much about the twist in the game really stuck with me more so than the puzzles. But don't get me wrong, the puzzles were a bit tedious if you wanted to learn more about the lore in subsequent playthroughs, but were still really fun to think through and complete. And while I left out some that didn't really feel relevant to the overall story of The Witch's House, the ones I mentioned tie into Ellen's story before she befriended Viola. For example, the cook took the hands of the house's victims and used them to make medicine that slowed the progression of Ellen's illness. Medicine that he cooked into different foods for her. And now, seeing the true ending, releasing the golden butterfly from the spider's web while trapping another symbolizes Ellen and Viola trading places. Aside from the medicine puzzle in the cell, there's also another puzzle in the extra mode in which Ellen answers a series of questions about her parents, slashing their portraits and leaving bloodied handprints on their bodies as a response. Her parents are central to her becoming a mass murderer and a witch, and the novel and manga give us a better picture of the family's strained relationship. Over 200 years ago, she lived in an impoverished village. Ellen had been sick since she was born, and one day a fortune teller told her mother that her illness was due to the wrongdoings of her ancestors. She also told her Ellen was doomed to suffer for an eternity. As the game suggests, her mother seemed to love her at first, while her father refused to look at Ellen or even speak to her. In Ellen's eyes, her father only loved her mother, but there's evidence that her father was far from gentle and kind. He drinks and becomes addicted to a drug, and there's a scene in which he pulls the woman by her arm, closing the bedroom door behind them both. Ellen hears a commotion before they resume their normal talking voices, and she feels that whatever they're doing is something men and women have to do to connect. The novel lends more to this accusation when Ellen asked her mother what the pair were doing before. She worriedly laughs and ignores the question, but Ellen noticed a distinct smell, her father's smell, coming from the back of her mother's neck. And I think this is when Ellen's view of what love is begins to become twisted and misinterpreted. She finds herself hating her mother's beauty and how much her father adores her, envious that her body is healthy and alive while Ellen has resigned herself to staying within her room. She doesn't go outside. She used to, but one day she returned and saw the distant look in her mother's eyes. She saw how rough her hands had become from tending to Ellen and working every day in a bakery. And at that moment, she felt that one day, her mother would abandon her to finally be free. She's unfortunately quite the perceptive 7-year-old, since her mother does just that after seeing Ellen return one day from burying a dead cat. She had once marveled at how alive and cunning the cat was when she saw it catch a mouse in the back alley near her bedroom window one day. Ellen didn't want to see the cat dead any longer, who was once full of life, and once she carried it to a park for its burial, she formed the belief that once creatures die, they become mere things. Her mother returned one night to collect her belongings, but she came dressed in a nice gown with makeup and expensive white shoes that Ellen realized must have come from a new suitor. And before this scene, I really thought that Ellen's mother truly loved her. I thought, yeah, maybe she still does, but the domestic violence and the stress of making ends meet on top of handling Ellen's chronic illness became too much. But Ellen noted once that it seemed her mother wasn't working for Ellen's sake, but more to escape from something. Running away without Ellen could have been the only way to leave her abusive husband, but then there's this look on her face when Ellen catches her. It's disgruntled. She's upset she's been caught, but she quickly changes it to suit Ellen, smiling and even crying over her. But in the end, even though she now has someone who is rich and can surely provide for her and Ellen both, she chooses to abandon her once again. Ellen, overcome with rage and distraught over being abandoned, stabs her mother with a nearby crafting knife. stabbing her first under the chin and through her mouth, then repeatedly stabbing her body. The white shoes, the ones left behind in the cell at the witch's house, are now stained red with blood. Ellen's father is awakened from his drug-induced stupor and, seeing the carnage, clings to his wife, sobbing and screaming, but still never acknowledging Ellen. "I did this," Ellen tells him, trying to hide how much she enjoyed it. "I did this, Father." Still, her father doesn't acknowledge her, and Ellen is once again overcome with emotion. This time she doesn't want to see that her father will never be able to love her, that he only has eyes for that lady, as she now calls her. She plunges the knife into his back and kills him too. Later, she enters her parents' bedroom and sits on the bed, realizing they gave her the softest of the two in the house. Thinking this makes it hard for her to breathe, and in the smoke of her father's pipe, she imagines an alternate reality where the three of them were happy and smiling. If only she weren't sick, she thinks. The house is set ablaze as her father's pipe falls to the ground, the wind entering from a nearby window and knocking it over. Ellen runs as far as she can, but her inflamed legs will only carry her so far before she collapses. Realizing she'll die in the cold without food, warmth, or care, Ellen cries out, still in despair that her mother abandoned her. It is then that the black cat appears, thanking her for a delicious meal of 2 souls. He tells Ellen he can only eat souls once someone has killed them, yet he doesn't possess the power to do so himself. Once the body dies, the soul is released and able to be consumed by demons who possess the bodies of dead animals. This is why there's a sack filled with dead cats in the mansion. The black cat is a demon who simply uses another corpse if his body decomposes or is killed. And now he wants to thank Ellen for the meal by giving her a house. She agrees, then wakes the following morning inside the mansion. There's furniture and clothes that perfectly suit her and vases of roses in every room. She's delighted to see that her body appears healthy and void of illness, and a bit confused the cat has made her into a witch? Whatever that might mean. A witch who can never leave the house. But no matter. She'll never be cold or hungry here. The demon teaches her to read and write, and her desire to learn prevents her from being bored for a while. But eventually, she starts to feel lonely. The inhabitants of the house are not human and don't react in a relatable way, so she desires a friend. In the garden room, she realizes the flowers and weeds can talk. She asks them where the black cat might be, and they send her down a long pathway. But just like in the game, the red weeds lie, and Ellen finds herself in an unfamiliar area, the prison that houses her parents' ghost. Suddenly, she wakes in her room, the cat by her side. Was it a dream? Or not? The cat doesn't explicitly say, but he tells her to be careful. She wants to know the truth about her parents, but instead, she asks for a friend. The cat seems pleased and shows her how to use the magic in her body, a magic that extends to the forest. She can manipulate the woods around her, use her magic to project her sight throughout the area. In doing so, she finds a boy. After manipulating the forest to get the boy lost, he finds himself at the mansion. He's excited over its extravagance, the pastries and candies Ellen offers. He's become Ellen's first friend, often returning to the house to play. One day, he convinces Ellen to step outside, but the moment she does, her body is racked with pain and her skin is once again inflamed and bloody. The boy runs away, frightened, calling her a monster, and it's here when the cat reveals that though she appears well within the house thanks to its magic, her body was never really cured. He also drops the bombshell that witches can't die, so even once her legs rot, her vision fades, and her skin sloughs off, she'll still be alive, forever. But why keep all this from her until now? The cat says she needed to know how miserable she could really be once she was given warmth, friends, knowledge, and the disguise of a healthy body, only to realize it could all be taken away. She needed to know the depths of her own misery. Ellen materializes her knife and stabs the cat in frustration, but he easily overpowers her in her weakened state. It's in finding her deepest misery that the cat can manipulate her, explaining that her deepest desire must be for a cure because her illness is to blame for no one ever loving her. Ellen wanted to love and be loved, but now that idea is shrouded by her feelings of inferiority and despair over her illness. So the cat, now pleased with her answer, offers her a cure. All he wants in return is more souls. Feed the house enough people, it'll claim their bodies, and the cat will eat their souls. Then, he'll teach her the magic. Obsessed with this newfound solution, Ellen greets the boy the following day. He apologizes for running away, but she still feels the sting of his betrayal. So acting as if nothing has changed, Ellen invites him into the house, closes the door, and lets the house crush him between its walls. This is her first glimpse of the pure malice of the house and its pleasure in having a new witch to feed it. All that remained of the boy was a blood stain on the floor, which became our first trap within the game. He is the boy we find in the library, the one who hangs himself with the rope we provide. In the manga, Ellen says the inhabitants of the house are the leftovers of a soul, the dregs she calls them, which could mean either the last remaining parts or the most undesirable. Over the years, many people came to the house by Ellen's design or seeking the witch that was kidnapping people, and one by one, she fed them all to the house and the demon. All the while, she felt no regret or guilt because the one thing she truly coveted was a body worthy of love. Ellen killed them all in unique ways to make them tastier for the cat, because souls that are in despair are the tastiest. This is the reason all of the traps within the house are gruesome and scary. The more a human despairs, the better. Ellen noticed that every human who died seemed to make the roses in her garden and around the mansion bloom. She killed so many people that the flowers couldn't be contained and started blooming around the borders of the mansion as well. She didn't know it at the time, but roses to a witch are like her flesh and blood. They're a witch's life source. Occasionally, when a pair of humans arrived at the house, she would let one live and escape to build her reputation in the nearby villages. There's an interesting part of the manga in which she's recounting her choices in her diary. She says she doesn't enjoy killing people, yet as she eats her cake, it's batter containing the medicine that's made with her victim's hands. She smiles and licks her lips. The cat asks her who she's trying to convince, and she responds that it's definitely the person reading this diary. Ellen enjoys killing, whether she admits it to herself fully or not, and she enjoys the praise and appreciation she receives from the house when she does. And all of this pleases the cat greatly. Many, many years pass. Wars are fought and ended, and more people come to the mansion as Ellen's reputation spreads. She called them all her friends because to her, a friend was someone who would die for her, and die they all did so that she could continue living. She began storing the medicine she saved up in the special room we see in the game, the one that is protected by the poisoned river. In the manga, she throws the cat in the water to avoid a conversation with him, and we see his true form emerge, which is nothing more than smoke. He goes to his collection of corpses for a new body, then finds Ellen back at the garden. She can no longer recall her father's face, but she can still smell the sweet scent in her mother's cell, the smell of pastries and sugar. So much time has passed, and now she's terrified of what her true body looks like, horrified at the thought of stepping outside. Yet one day, she was careless when a warrior approached the mansion. He managed to harm her, flinging her into some nearby roses, and we can see that once she's outside, her body has rotted away greatly. With a final blow, the man cuts Ellen's head off. Yet she awakes once more in the mansion. Her body appears healed, but there's a pain that won't go away that feels similar to her illness. Because she's immortal, no matter how much a witch's body is wounded, it'll ultimately return to normal in the mansion. However, Ellen's heart was wounded that day too. She realized the true state of her body and the seemingly impossible task of being cured and loved. And in that moment, she truly despaired. The cat had lied to her. Witches aren't exactly immortal. They can live forever as long as they want to, but having despair is necessary for a witch to die. They must yearn for death more than their heart's original desire. The cat gives her the cute little bottle, the one that kills the roses. And again, these roses are Ellen's lifeline. The bottle contains the depths of her despair, and it smells just like her mother's scent. Ellen considers it for a moment, ending the suffering, but she can't. She won't. Her wishes haven't been fulfilled yet. She needs to be loved more than anything else. So she stores the bottle away in the medicine room where no human can retrieve it. The warrior has escaped, and thinking Ellen dead, the forest became peaceful for a time. Ellen still killed the hunters and lost children in the forest, but without much hope left. Because her spirit was wounded, the illness would continue to progress. She became immobile, lying in her bed and using magic to trap and consume them all. I think the initial despair broke something inside of her, and the cat realized this too, seeing her at her limit. So one day he finally decides to grant her wish. He offers her a body-switching spell as a cure. On that day, in the woods collecting flowers, waits Viola. The cat leads her into the house and up to Ellen's room where she lies bandaged and sickly. Viola, kind at heart, feels sorry for the young girl and quickly befriends her. There are moments when she tries to cheer Ellen up, believing her parents are still alive, but working hard to provide for Ellen as explanation for why they never visit. Ellen seems pleased, but not because of what Viola said, but because she has someone who loves her. She learns through their conversation that Viola has a father. The following day, we see Viola and her father talking, and there's a scene here that some have speculated as having a sexual undertone between the two, but I didn't quite see it that way. Viola is smiling, excited to see Ellen again, and her father questions her about it. She evades the answer because she's technically not supposed to go into the forest, and she doesn't like lying to him. However, as she goes to leave the house, he notices her ribbon has come undone on her dress. He reaches for her to help, but she leaps away from him and seems distressed. Now, I think this is merely because she's nervous about leaving and doesn't want to be held up any longer by her father. She's acting unnatural because she doesn't want to get caught, not because he tying her ribbon up is upsetting necessarily. But that day, Viola enters the mansion and ends up falling asleep in the room with Ellen. When she wakes, she finds Ellen standing and covering her with a blanket. She sees the state of Ellen's legs, smells the antiseptic and the blood, and is frightened. The disease isn't contagious. Ellen told her as much, and now she feels awful for having thought that way in the first place. But still, she's scared, and a part of her is set on never returning. But when she imagines the tears in Ellen's eyes, realizing her only friend has abandoned her, she can't do it. She leaps out of bed, runs through the rain to Ellen, and exclaims how badly she wanted to see her. Ellen smiles, and our view pans over to the window, where we see a butterfly now trapped in a web as a spider looms forward. The black cat standing nearby, observing it all. Viola continues to visit over the summer, and one day wishes aloud that she could take Ellen's place. Tears stream down Ellen's eyes as she hears this, saying Viola being friends with someone like her is a dream come true. Viola tells her there will come a day when she will be well enough to go outside and walk on her own 2 feet, but Ellen tells her that day will never come because she'll be dead soon. She convinces Viola that all the villagers know of her, even her father knows, but they all keep it a secret because of her illness. Viola mutters to herself, "If only I could take your place," and Ellen hears her. She grabs her hand and thanks her, telling her that she's so kind. "But even if I could never leave and no one comes to play, and even if I'm never cured, it's enough to have you by my side, Viola," Ellen says to her as tears stream down her eyes. "I love you." And Viola thinks, what a pure child. But Ellen's inner thoughts tell us a different story. She hates Viola, a girl who has no idea how much she's loved. She absolutely loathes her. That night, Viola returns home late and her father is concerned. He wants to know who she's been seeing because he's never heard of the friend she claims to be visiting. She finally admits to seeing a girl named Ellen, but her father doesn't appear to know that name. But didn't Ellen say he and the whole village knew of her? Viola confronts her father, but he has no idea what she's talking about. But then, why won't they let her play deep in the forest? He tells her it's dangerous, with unsafe paths and wild beasts, but nothing of the witch. But now, he's worried. Has Viola been going into the woods after all? She lies and says that Ellen's house is near the forest but not deep within it, and now she feels terrible. She couldn't bear to see how her father would have looked at her if she told the truth. Still unsure if he knows of Ellen and her illness, she worries he might have stopped her from going again. And Viola is all Ellen has now, especially since she thinks that she's dying. The next morning, she comes down from her room to realize her father has left for work early. He's left her a note, but she's not ready to read it yet, afraid it'll reveal truths that she doesn't want to hear. So she puts the note in her pocket and sets off for the forest. As she collects wildflowers for Ellen, she feels a pain in her eye. Thinking it's nothing more than a rogue bug, she suddenly sees the cat who speaks to her. She's surprised at first, but he tells her that it's all thanks to Ellen's magic. He claims that Viola only became friends with Ellen because she pitied and looked down on the sickly child, that being her only friend made her feel good and superior. Viola admits at first she did pity Ellen, but then they truly became friends, and the cat, while he laughs. He then tells her none of it matters because Ellen will die today. Viola's eye is still aching terribly, but she asks the cat if he's certain. In the novel, she says his gold eyes seem to peer into her heart when he says, "Oh, that's odd. Did you just feel relieved?" She denies it, but he seems unconvinced. But either way, Ellen can use magic to cure herself. More precisely, he adds, she has a spell to switch bodies with Viola. And right now, in this very moment, Ellen is gouging out her own eyes and hacking off her own legs so that once Viola is inside her body, she'll die in deep despair, the only way a witch can be killed. But Viola doesn't believe Ellen would do this, not the girl she knows. Yet her eye hurts so much she can't stop crying, and the cat tells her it's because the body swap has already begun. Otherwise, he wouldn't be speaking with her now. Viola had consented to swapping bodies when she wished aloud to take Ellen's place that day. The magic given to Ellen by the cat for all the souls she provided him strangely only works with consent. And now the two have switched completely. Ellen stands in Viola's body, the pain completely gone from within, and she rejoices. Meanwhile, Viola is overcome with pain and in total agony. Ellen pretends to offer her painkillers, actually giving Viola a medicine that burns her throat, making her unable to speak, which explains her incoherent speech in the game. Ellen then flees the mansion, but once Viola realizes she's obtained the power of the witch, she uses the magic and Ellen's memories of all the victims she's lured into the house to reshape it and set traps meant to capture Ellen. Ellen had already made it outside, however, so Viola created the wall of roses, trapping her in the forest and knocking her out. After waking, Ellen remembers the cute little bottle and its contents and decides to re-enter the house to retrieve it and kill the roses. Viola's life was over the moment that she agreed to switch bodies with Ellen for a day. She could have said no, but Ellen knew she wouldn't because she's so sweet and wouldn't betray her, foolish and couldn't refuse her. And perhaps as Viola comes to realize, she lied to herself, thinking if a small child could bear the pain inside this sick body, surely she could too. She lied to herself about wanting to trade places because in truth, she never did. She wanted to be loved too, and Ellen loved her in a way, needed her with a ferocity that Viola had never experienced before. It's suggested in the manga and novel that on top of Ellen's inferiority complex stemming from her illness, her idea of love for her father was also very warped, shaped by her experiences in childhood. It seems she exhibits the Electra complex, described as a girl's psychosexual competition with her mother for possession of her father's love. After the body switch, there's a point where Viola has almost made peace with dying and letting Ellen live on. She's obtained memories left behind in Ellen's body and learns how long she's been alive. She also sees Ellen's one true wish, to be loved. Inside her mind, she sees Ellen in her body looking toward Viola's father and smiling. And when Viola sees that smile, she realizes everything. Ellen's eyes are filled with a seductive light, and her idea of love has been etched into her heart in a twisted form. Disgust and repulsion traveled up her spine. She tried to drive away Ellen's feelings remembered in her body, but she said it was as if Ellen's cells smiled, delighted in her understanding. How much would Ellen's love hurt her father? How much would it torture her? She wondered. It is this desire to protect her father that allows Viola to tap into Ellen's magic, allows her to create the traps. She hates Ellen, but she's not sure if she wants to kill her. What she wants is her body back, which is why she protects Ellen in the game when the entity attacks her in the hallway. And Ellen knows that obtaining the bottle of despair will end Viola's life. She also knows that Viola would die on her own in Ellen's body, and there's even an ending in the game that depicts this. In the beginning, if Ellen, in Viola's body, doesn't move for a solid hour, the roses and the magic in the forest disappear, indicating that Viola has died due to the mutilated body, the progression of illness, and finally giving into despair over the sheer pain and inability to protect her father. Both characters desired love and to be loved in turn, which is a worthwhile pursuit in life, but it can easily destroy someone if your idea of love becomes too distorted. Ellen became obsessed with needing love from others while she never truly loved herself, and Viola failed to recognize the love her father gave and instead liked the idea of being treasured above all else as Ellen's only friend. The reality is neither were happy with the love they currently had, and while I think Ellen believes she's on her way to a happily ever after, I wouldn't be too sure. Ellen blames everything that happened on her illness and how it impacted those around her, but her family trauma was caused by a variety of factors. Though she lived for centuries, the novel states her mind remained that of a 7-year-old girl, so she's still technically a child, though a serial killer. But it makes you wonder if nature or the lack of nurture was at play in her development. Would life have truly been different for her and her family if only she weren't sick? Would her parents love her and her life be happy, or would Ellen go on to kill under different circumstances? Unfortunately, I think Ellen was never meant to have a happily ever after, regardless of her illness, and in this case, it's all because of someone else. The ancestor who cursed her in the first place. For starters, I think her father did love her in a way, though she didn't know it. He was emotionally neglectful, yes, horrible to his wife, but I started wondering if perhaps the ancestor that caused Ellen's curse was from her father's side of the family. Ellen and her father share the same hair color, which, yeah, that happens with genetics, but maybe he also hates seeing Ellen unhealthy, looking similar to himself and knowing his ancestor was the cause of it all. This realization could cause him a lot of grief and guilt, and maybe he tries to hide the guilt by avoiding Ellen, drinking, smoking, and abusing his wife. They gave Ellen the softest bed in the house, and Ellen's mother said once that her father works for Ellen's sake, and maybe there's a hint of truth to that, but now Ellen will never really know for sure. The leftover bits of his soul within the cell only want one thing: to consume the drug. Perhaps he became fixated on creating a false sense of euphoria in order to avoid feelings of guilt and anguish. But in doing so, he neglected his wife and child in the process. So what could his ancestor have done that was so terrible that Ellen now suffers for an eternity because of it? I think he was responsible for creating the demon cat in the first place. In the digital copy of the novel, there's a bonus chapter narrated by the cat, and in it he hints a lot about his own beginnings. He was once a child whose mother was killed by another human, and he suggests that he was around Ellen's age when he died and became a new demon. When he talks about why he was attached to her, he says it was because her soul was broken and pretty to him, and he wanted to protect it from being changed by humans. Yet, when he talks about her love of black cats, he calls it a surprising twist of fate, if not outright destiny. Maybe they were fated to meet because her ancestor killed his mother, causing him to become a demon in the first place. Like he says in the manga, if Ellen were to have died after she killed her parents, she would have never truly known the depths of her despair, so he made her experience those things. In the novel, he even thinks, "I'll make it so this girl can't live without me." He was excited over her twisted view of love and even manipulated her into believing she could never be loved without a healthy body, needing him to create a cure. In a way, the demon became the curse itself. And remember what the fortune teller told her mother: Ellen is doomed to suffer this curse for all eternity. Yet in the true ending, she seems to have found her happily ever after. But the cat doubts this because she's a witch, which he created, and everything about her invites ruin. He thinks she'll return to him one day after her life is destroyed once again, but this time he won't be as interested in her as he used to be. And how do you think Ellen will take being betrayed and abandoned by the cat given her history? She would despair, and when that time comes, would another witch offer her soul to the cat for a wish? The true ending of the game shows Viola fading away, followed by the cat. She's clearly dead, right? The roses are gone, she's been shot in the head by her father, and in that moment of despair, she would have made an incredibly tasty soul for a demon. But what if the cat made another choice? Like Ellen, Viola has now seen the depths of her despair. She was loved by a caring father, had believed in the fake friendship forged between her and Ellen, then had her heart broken by the betrayal. What if instead of consuming her soul, he gives Viola a bit of magic? Just like the night Ellen murdered her parents. She's already a witch now that she's inside Ellen's body, and in the novel the cat reveals that he would bring Ellen back to life over and over again as long as she wished it, because to die, a witch has to despair to the point of desiring death. Before the shooting, Viola didn't desire death. She wanted her body back and to protect her father, and we saw how she shifted from a kind, timid girl to a powerful witch capable of using the house to trap and torture Ellen if need be. We saw that her desire to protect him allowed her to overcome the pain to the point of surviving even when the roses wilted. When her father shot her in the head, her death would have been instantaneous, with no time to despair over his choice. If she even blamed him at all, which quite frankly I think she didn't, given how much she loved him and understanding his inability to tell the difference between her and Ellen. So she's fatally wounded, similar to when Ellen has her head cut off by the warrior. Like the cat said in the manga though, no matter how much a witch's body is injured, they'll return back to normal under the magic of the house and continue to live on. Not to mention, Ellen also told us that within the medical room was a literal stockpile of medicine she stored up, medicine that the cat and Viola now have access to for treating the illness. And I know Ellen killed the roses, but she killed them with her own despair, not Viola's. So why would her despair work if only memories of that despair and desire remained within the body? There's also the fact that we don't know if the rest of the roses within the mansion are destroyed as well. We see the ones in the clearing fade, but the roses in the garden room were still in bloom even after the house started to change. When the cat granted Ellen's wish, he saw her as a clean plate, her purpose now fulfilled once she reached her limit and was no longer useful to him. But demons only live to eat. So wouldn't it make sense to help the remaining witch since he can't kill humans on his own? Demons gift witches magic in exchange for souls, but it's never explicitly said that souls have to be given first before a pact is made. And it seems that the demon grows bored with witches he can't manipulate within the mansion too. The previous witch who lived in the mansion before Ellen was taken with the ecstasy of killing people with the house, to the point she never wished to leave. She had no desire other than living in the mansion forever, and according to the cat, she became too much to handle. So he granted her wish, making her the will of the house itself. Yet doing so placed her in a dormant state until Ellen finally arrived to lure people in. So Viola doesn't necessarily need to offer a soul to him from the start as long as she feeds him in the house once the pact is made and she's someone he can toy with. The cat's powers are pretty mysterious, but within the library, Ellen found a book that mentions he can control bodies, peer into people's hearts, and confuse them with illusions. Since he can peer into Viola's heart, he also knows what she might be capable of, especially after seeing the lengths she would go to protect her father and get her body back. He could promise to undo the swapping spell in exchange for more souls, intrigued with seeing how twisted Viola could become in her quest. Then there's the mention of his final power, the ability to create illusion. Wouldn't Ellen's body be beyond destroyed once Viola exited the mansion? Like almost completely rotted away, destroyed. Yet in the game, she's ill and missing her eyes and legs thanks to Ellen, but she's nowhere near close to rotting like she was in the manga. Now, this just might be an inconsistency in the game or the art itself, but wouldn't it be interesting if this was an illusion created by the cat to make Ellen think she killed Viola when she didn't? The rose wall could have also been an illusion all along, the cat removing it once Ellen used the bottle, making her believe her plan had worked. And if, as he predicted, Ellen returns one day after losing the father she's wanted for so long, will Viola still be there, waiting to continue the cycle of despair as the newest witch? But as always, I want to know, what do you think? What are some of your theories about the witch's house, and do you think it's possible that Viola is still alive? Did Ellen's ancestors really create the demon cat, and how do you think he'll find his next witch? There's some smaller details I didn't mention from the game, manga, and novel, and if you'd like to share some I left out or missed altogether, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And also, do you call her Viola or Viola? Because I have wanted to say Viola throughout this entire video, but I called her Viola based on the Japanese pronunciation. I figured someone would tell me if I was wrong either way, but I saw that it was Viola, like Viola, I think it was. Viola? I don't know. Someone will tell me if I'm right or wrong. Lastly, I wanted to apologize for taking so long to get this video out. I was waiting on my new laptop to arrive. I'm still waiting for a new part for my microphone, and there was just a lot of details in the manga and novel which honestly just took so long to organize the info in my head without feeling like I was boring you to death. And also, just huge thank you to everyone that contributed ideas on what games I should cover next in our community poll. There were a lot of great ones mentioned that I've added to the list, so be on the lookout for those in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Here's another one of my videos, and as always, may your nightmares be strangely cozy.